Welcome to our podcast, Learn Biblical Greek, brought to you by Dr. William Stewart, the co-founder of Teleios. This captivating podcast teaches you biblical Greek through a verse-by-verse study of the book of Ephesians, interjecting Greek grammar, Greek word meanings, and vital theology concepts. Thanks for joining us on this exciting biblical journey. Your study will be more effective if you use the Greek text with the Bible word codes, either on the eSword download or Bible Hub website. These links are on our podcast website at www.teleiosresearch.com.
Hi, I'm William Stewart, co-founder of Teleios. Welcome back to our podcast on learning biblical Greek. This is the podcast where you can learn Greek about the words, the grammar, how it affects our translations, and we talk about theology too of this great book of Ephesians, this very efficient treatise by Paul telling us about Christ, salvation, and the Christian life. We're in verse 20 of chapter 4. Open that Greek text, visit our website, look at our disclaimer and other resources and links on the website. Hopefully it's helpful. Let's get going. Verse 20, umis. So this is the second person plural pronoun, nominative, just meaning we. We don't see it much in Greek because the person and number is tied into the verb itself, much like Spanish, where the pronoun is not used, except here in Greek and in Spanish, where it's being emphasized. We is being emphasized. So here it is. De. This is the a particle, I guess you would call that basically conjugation, a conjugative particle that connects two phrases in Greek. And as we've spoken, these are vital in Greek because we don't have punctuation in the Greek. So it tells us a lot about how phrases connect and thoughts connect. De means but, mild contrast, or and it, as Runge has said, that R-U-N-G-E, that it connects two thoughts that are of the same topic, but the thought that's following is adding information. So verse 20 does connect to 19, discussing Christian life. However, Paul is adding information in verse 20. See, it comes after also the first word in the phrase. It'll never come first, it always is second. Un does the same thing as well. So there's a few of these, we call them postpositives in the Greek. Uk is not. The X is there because uk comes before the following word is a vowel. So the X is put there for phonetic reason. Uks. Emathete, a verb. Learn. Okay, let's walk through it. No prefix. We do see an augment, so it tells us it is a past tense indicative. So that's either a imperfect, perfect, or aorist, being the most common. Moth. Now this word comes from montano, to learn. So you see that there's a change in the root of the word. So instead of being monthane, it's moth. So we eliminate some letters that automatically makes it, pretty much automatically makes it a second aorist when you have a change in the root. Now, some verbs will have a different root, but I don't have an exact number. My impression is that when we see a different root, it's usually a change in the original root. Second aorist then differs in that it doesn't have the SA connector as a tense formative, but the connector is the same as the present and the future tense, O or E. So that's where we get the E, but it connects to the second set of verbal endings, which are generally past tense, imperfect, aorist, imperfect, or pluperfect, whereas the first set of endings are in the present, future, and the perfect. Okay, so in the past tense, the second set, the first person singular is in, and the plural is men. S is the second person singular versus TE, like we see here. Second person plural, there is no ending for the third person singular, and SAN for the third person plural. So in and men, first person, S and te in the second person, no ending, and san in the third person. So you learn. Tone Christone. Here we have the end of the tone. So short word with a T makes you think of a Blake article. Certainly it's followed by a noun here. So remember, we get the gender from the article. And so this ON tells you it's a masculine, singular, and nominative, accusative ending. It matches that of Christone. So it tells you that most likely this is the second declension. Remember, declension is determined by the noun. So Christos, of course, is the translation of Messiah, the anointed one. Messiah being the Hebrew from the Old Testament. Christo, the anointed one, the one who came to save us from our sins, is the Greek translation. So what we have here, but you did not learn Christ in this way. And I'm glad I read that because I forgot a word. Uto, here in the middle, means in this matter, like, so. Very common a word that is an adverb. Typically, it will come before the verb, and means emphasis in the Greek. If a adverb goes after the verb, it's less emphasized. So it's flexible where it occurs around the verb. The S is there, alftos, because the following word, emate, begins with a vowel. So it's there for phonetic reasons. Okay, great verse. So basically, Paul, after listing some bad things that non-Christians do in their prior life and that they had done, as we saw in verse 19, had sort of means that the action is probably completed because they're Christian now. He is saying you did not learn, okay, Christ in this way. So we learn Christian things after coming to faith in our salvation. And the learn here are things that they've learned in the past. I think that's why it's in the aorist, the punctiliar tense, something they've already learned. Paul expects them to have learned not to act like an unbeliever and to have moved on in their faith. So this is a past action. Great. Thank you for joining me today. We'll continue this great passage on the Christian life in verse 21 next time. Please join me then.